Hey, here's a request video about what I think about David Goggins from K9 365. Just did a request about Warhammer 40,000, and then I wants to know about David Goggins. So David Goggins' deal, he's that guy who like motivates. He's the motivational speaker and does the that you need to exercise super hardcore. I guess he's into like the overtraining philosophy. There's like two different philosophies with like being an athlete. There's overtraining and then undertraining. I'm actually on David Goggins' side, overtraining. A good analogy would be like there's that book, The Call of the Wild. I was listening to the audiobook like a long time ago for a bit of it, and like yeah, like the way that you would get like a slave in shape or maybe a soldier in an army from ancient Roman shape, or like a sled dog in shape would be to just throw them in the sled dog and then just work them to death. And some of them maybe get worked to death and don't survive, but the ones that survive get fit really fast, really strong. Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, you know? As long as you don't get an injury, then the harder you train, the better you're going to be. And yeah, I kind of believe I like that approach better. Like yesterday, I was going to try to run 10 miles, but I decided against it because I was still recovering from my muscles were still sore. I lifted weights all day long 2 days ago, and my muscles are still sore from that because I haven't done it for like months because I've been too busy sitting in my apartment. And then the next day I rode 5 hours on my mountain bike, and as I was riding back, like my whole body was just aching because all my muscles were sore from lifting weights, but I was also riding. And so my back and everything was hurting, and I wasn't used to that. And, you know, it wasn't so bad that it was like, not fun. It wasn't overdoing it. But then yesterday I was going to go on a run, but I decided against it because I could tell that if I was going to actually do the run, I was going to go really slow and not do very well. But in the long run, like if I had gone on the run, I'd be better off now because it's better I think it's better to overtrain than to undertrain because when the body is constantly trying to heal itself, you can get to a higher level of fitness quicker. Than if you're just kind of take it the easy way. Yeah, so like that whole motivation stuff, like, you know, when it hurts, you get better. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger said the same exact thing that David Goggins said. He's like, you feel the burn, you know, and the more you feel the burn, the better you're going to do. And you know, that's why sports makes people the best athletes because they're competing and they're going as hard as they possibly can as they're competing. And the more you compete, going as hard as you can, the better you're going to be. You know, like if you're in a race with other people, you just push yourself harder because you just have that natural instinct to try to like stay in front of somebody. You know, like if you're on a bike ride and you pass somebody, you know that the person's behind you, and then you make sure to keep riding hard because you want to be consistent. You don't want to like be like you worked harder to pass them and then you let off. I think it's the same thing with like running. Or like ego lifting, if you know if somebody's watching you or something, it's easy to like push yourself harder if you're filming. And yeah, so I think that's a cool approach, you know. And I like that he does all the different sports. I guess he ran 200 miles in a race, and he does like pull-ups all day long and that kind of stuff. That's fun. But I think it's only half of it. Plato in Laws, Book 7, Chapter 14, I think it was. Plato said, the training of the mind and the training of the body need to be wedded together like the horse and the rider. So you would never train one without the other. Because if you do one too much, then you're not a well-rounded person. You'll develop problems, you know, like you won't live long enough if you don't exercise, and then you'll develop like emotional problems or whatever. And then your brain won't get enough blood flow and your brain power will go down. But if you train too much physically, then your brain will suffer. That's a great quote. And that's kind of what my whole life purpose is to marry the two. And so that you don't have to waste your time with college and schools, because that's just sitting around twiddling thumb and then licking people's buttholes. And if you're not good enough licking butthole, then you get kicked out like me, or if you're different and you get kicked out. Just putting way too much power in the hands of these asshole people like Fort Loser College and even in high school and everything. Just provide like benchmarks to go after, and then go after the benchmark, but not just physical. So I think the next level would be yeah, to incorporate physical. I think if I was David Goggins, I think I don't know. I should check out his website, but I mean everything should be people's accomplishments need to be as like readily available as absolute as like humanly possible. So like if you have a page of like all of your like records or whatever, just have them all on one page. So somebody go there and they can see it, and then if they click it, it takes you to the YouTube channel of them doing it, and then you can see, and then you can compete. You know, and the more competitive we all are, the more the less like egotistical we are, and the more realistic we are. I just read book one of Plutarch's Morals, and three of those chapters are sayings, laconic sayings of the Spartans, and the Spartans were like a purely physically competitive society. They didn't do any work because they had the helots, slave helots, do all their work for them. So their jobs, everybody's job in Sparta, and they even kind of kept their numbers to about 10,000 evenly throughout their entire existence. Because if it was too much, you get too unwieldy. But 10,000 citizens was all they needed. Because back in those days, when you'd hit the field, you know, like two legions, 10,000 people was enough of an army to defeat anybody. Because that's about as big of an army as you'd ever go up against. And if you were outnumbered, you could kick their asses anyway. Because you're all professional like fighters. And so, yeah, that's all they did, men and women. They would train naked, and they'd just train all day long and compete. They do gymnastics. They had boxing, wrestling, and then boxing, wrestling mixed. So they had MMA back in ancient Greece and Sparta. I don't know how much of the wrestling incorporated like chokeholds and arm locks and all that kind of stuff, but it probably did. So they had full-on MMA back in those days as part of like an Olympic sport. But yeah, and then they did running and all that kind of a stuff. But you know, the more competitive you are, the more realistic you are, because they would you know, like there's a saying like there's a Spartan woman's son got killed, and they're like, oh no, you know, he was the greatest Spartan, and she's like, no, there's many Spartans better than him. She was just realistic, but he's still a great man because he's a Spartan. And like Alexander the Great, like. He did a foot race with a professional runner, and the professional runner was letting him win, and he chewed out the professional runner for letting him win because he knew it wasn't realistic for the leader, for the king to be faster than the professional runner, because he thought pragmatically. So the more competitive you are, the more pragmatic you are, and the less like, you know, fantastical you are. Alexander also said like his father was like, yeah, you're a good runner, you should join the Olympics. And he's like, well, if there was a category where I raced against other kings, because he knew it would be unfair for him to race against in the Olympics against professional runners, because they were all running all day long. He was a king doing administrative work, so he needed a new division, and he was like realistic about that. The people who are the least realistic about like violence and physical competition are the people who are the least exposed to it, who least and I think it goes the same way with minds. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. The stupider you are, like the smarter you think you are compared to everybody, because you're not in the world of competing with your mind. You're isolated, and you're only comparing yourself with other stupid people. And it's the same thing with physicality. Like the people who I've seen the most talk like they're badass fighters are the most physically incapable people. Like I knew a kid, won't drop any names, but super skinny dude, like 150 pounds, couldn't bench press 130 pounds one time to save his life. Going around talking like he was a total badass, and, you know, and then like violence, and, you know, like once he was like my roommate, and he like snuck in the back. He's like, I was in such a bad mood. If you were here, you'd be dead right now. And I was like, and then there was this big fat dude who like I knew, who like was talking like he was this badass fighter and stuff, and it's like he could barely walk, you know. So it's like, but it's the same thing with the mind, you know, like Donald Trump all the time. He's the most persecuted guy ever in the history of humankind, because he's the smartest guy ever in the history of humankind, and he's the most godly and all that kind of stuff, and as all of his enemies are the worst in humankind, because he doesn't know history. So he's the most ever. So the more competitive, and like the least competitive you are, the more jealous you get, and the less you understand what competition is. Like there was this kid named, maybe I won't say his name, but this kid like who was in my class in 4th grade. And I was a bike racer in 4th grade. And he came over to my house to hang out, and he had a bike. And we were like, okay, let's go on a ride. And he's like, oh no, I don't want to go on a ride, because he was like, didn't have the fitness to go on an actual ride. So I was like, okay, well, let's do a little race around the block. So we did a little race around the block, but like I went around the first corner and I slipped my chain. I threw my chain, which is something that never, ever, ever happens. So then he went around the block, and I was like, hey, we need to do the race again. He's like, oh no, I won the race. I won. He's running around like, I beat Kyle. I beat him. Like, no, I threw my chain. That wasn't a competition. So then they switch it into cheating. So then like Donald Trump has to cheat to become the president. I think he cheated because he won all the swing states, which never happens. And then the swing states he did win, they were going up, and then all of a sudden they spiked. And yeah, the people who are the least competitive cheat the most, and the people who are the most competitive, all competition is like trying to be the best you can be, and getting motivated by looking around you and seeing, like, using other people as benchmarks and yourself as a benchmark as part of the entertainment of getting better and best you can be. And the most competitive people are the most supportive of their competitors, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They said he was always super supportive of all of his bodybuilder buddies, yeah, the people who cheat the most are the most and then win by cheating are kind of the most like biggest assholes, like Lance Armstrong, and they try to like they think that part of the competition is like dragging your competitors down and hurting their name and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so if everybody were to like listen to David Goggins and just like get motivated and exercise, that'd be cool. But like I think you need to record all of your feats. So that's why I think you should record your mental and physical, because if you try to be as well-rounded of a person as you can, it's like Alexander says, you're never going to be the best at one thing. But there's nothing wrong. Like in the past, there's that saying, jack of all trades, master of none. And you don't want to be that guy, because then you'll never get a job, because the people will only hire the master. And so only people who are focused on one thing. And so the only people who could be like a Renaissance man polymath would be like the king, like one person who had the money to get away with it, like with their fuck you money. And so like, like in the past, like if you're like different and poor, you're a weirdo. But if you're different and rich, you're eccentric. And that's why like a lot of rich people in the past, like would just waste their money because they would try stuff that's risky to try to change the world. And a lot of times it would fail. But it didn't really matter because they survived anyway. And but I think that in the future, now with that, when everybody can be like rich, everybody can get a second chance, especially when you have a bunch of social safety nets. People can take risk and try to do stuff and fail and win and fail. But you can try to, like it develops new categories, new more and more and more categories, until eventually the new category, which turns out to be the best category, is just the jack of all trades category. Like, who's the best at all of it? And so, yeah, in the future, I think we should wed mental with physical. And so, like, that's what I'm trying to do now. Like I wouldn't, if I was just like got a really good athlete, like a triathlete or something, and I got really good at that and like the best in the world, I wouldn't be satisfied. I'd feel like an idiot, because then I'd look at some people who's smart and I'd be like, oh no, but they're changing the world and I'm just being selfish. And I think a lot of people, like athletes, kind of could feel that like guilt sometimes, especially athletes who grew up with money and they could have done anything and they decided to blow all their money becoming a better athlete or traveling around the world or something, instead of like try to save the whales or something like that. So in the future, I think in order to help with that, guilt and just to be able to motivate to be the best you can be, is to incorporate the two. And so that's why I designed my website. It's perfectly appropriate for my website. Like, I think David Goggins 2.0 would be like the guy who is like, look what I did here, physical, this physical, but look what I did mental while I did the physical. So like, that's what I'm trying to do now. Trying to get back in shape right now. But I went to pass my history test where I memorized 150 different things from England, 1500 to 2000, from recognizing images. I'll put the link below to the test. But also random number generator test for AD, BC, ancient history, and 20th century. Yeah, and then you just tally up the scores of all of those things, and then the book reviews. Like I'm doing Morale right now, all up on YouTube. That's what YouTube should be for everybody to do that stuff. And because like I'm watching, like I was watching Secular Talk the other day. I think I'm subscribed to him, and I never really used to listen to that much. But Kyle Kalinske, and he's cool. He's online with me physically. I mean, politically, but as I'm watching him talk, and like Hassan Hassanabi, the Cenk Uyghur's nephew up there, is kind of the same thing. A lot of these people, they make a bunch of money on YouTube, but basically what they're doing, because that's what I was thinking when I was watching Kyle Kalinske. Basically, what they're doing is they're just doing like a what I think about the world vlog, and that's great. But they're making money on it, and what they're doing is they're telling everybody else how to think. But the assumption of telling everybody else how to think is that everybody else needs to be taught how to think. And so what I envision is that everybody is like a Kyle Kalinske and a Hassan, just up there on YouTube every day, saying what they think about stuff, and they have the little clips, and they don't have people that nobody has somebody working for you. You do it yourself. I have a studio in my bedroom that I'm gonna, whenever I get around to it, I'm gonna set up, and I want to have like a daily vlog show where I hit the buttons and I have like a perfectly like studio, a perfectly organized studio that that like perfectly produced, just like it's CNN, you know. Then, but I don't put any time into it because it's all live, and it's all done. All the editing is done live while you're doing your video, and then you just upload it. And so like everybody does that, right? But if everybody does that, you don't make money doing that because people don't watch everybody. You don't sit around watching other people. You know, the reason that those guys make money doing that is because nobody makes videos. Imagine if everybody did a video like that, you wouldn't have the time to watch somebody else, you know? So I do it because people want to be told how to think. And they're also like, there's too much us versus them, left versus right. So then it's like they're watching them to be on their side, and then the other people watch the Daily Wire to be on the Daily Wire side so they can fight it out who's more powerful. But in the future, like when everybody is more educated and more like there's not the left and the right fighting each other and just a bunch of people trying to learn things, then it'd be a bunch of people doing the YouTube videos and talking about stuff, not to make money, but just to share themselves and to make themselves better communicator and let people know about themselves, and then to like but not just talk about politics, but every day, like teaching the world. Because if you want to go out and teach this stuff, instead of teaching them like the right way to think or like what side to be on politically, or explaining stuff, talking about other people, and it's like, you know, you're like a thought guru or whatever. Instead of that, you're actually teaching an actual thing. Like, I read this book, let me tell you what I thought about the book, you know? So if somebody is tired of listening to the book, like text to speech, reading it to them, or some person reading out the book, you want to hear what somebody from a certain perspective thinks about that book or thinks about that subject. And then you just kind of, people pop up and you listen to this guy's perspective, but nobody actually follows anybody. I saw a title of a YouTube video, like the age of like influencers is over, and maybe that's where it's kind of trending now. Like, it's not so much like you becoming a fan of somebody and watching all their stuff, because there's so many people out there. It's more like you watching a video of a video that you want to watch, like a certain type of video, and it happens to be a person, and maybe you see a bunch of videos from the same person, but it's mainly about that. And so in the future, you know, maybe it'll blow up even more, and that everybody will have a YouTube channel, and then everybody will think something, you know. And so maybe in your life you would only watch one video from one person, and like the person you watch the most videos of ever would be you've only watched 50 videos of that person, of the most, because everybody does videos, and you're actually doing your videos all the time, you know. And so so that's how I think we can wed like training of your mind and your body. Like, what I want to do is like you know, do a like the last few bike rides I did, I was listening to Plutarch Morale. It's like a 1,335 page book. It's huge, and I was listening to it like on regular speed. But as soon as I get done with it, I'm halfway through. I'm done with book one. I want to do the YouTube video, you know, and I talk about what I did in the video, and then I do the links of my Strava and what I did in the ride, and you compare yourself with other people, but you don't get overly competitive, you know, because you always know that there's no way you can be the best at everything all the time. Like I went mountain biking the other day, and I think I was like 1400th place on the downhill, but like there was no way I was going to be that much better than that because it was Sunday. You know, like it was packed with people. I had to get off the trail every like 100 meters to let somebody pass. And so you know, you do your best, but you don't get all preoccupied with like what place you get. And I think that's the whole reason people are so secretive. They keep their Stravas private. They don't do videos talking about stuff because they don't want to be last. It's all about their ego lifting, ego Strava, ego intellectualism. And yeah, so the problem is the less competitive your society is and that you are, the more you're going to cheat and the more jealous you're going to get. And jealousy is one of the biggest problems ever in history. Like if you hear historians talking about problems with people, like in ancient Roman times and Greek times, like jealousy was a big one. And people used to poison each other all the time. People would drop dead like flies all the damn time. I was listening to a video on Plutarch, and I can't remember who it was, but there was some guy, and he got poisoned, and at first he thought that he could run off the poison by running around and sweating it out. But then he realized, and he got back in his carriage and then died that night. Yeah, people just die. And it's because of jealousy, you know, somebody, but the jealousy, you know, stems from the wealth discrepancy. And so just, you have to get rid of that. And then, so that means you need social, nets to protect people and, you know, health insurance and all that kind of a stuff. And then if you're open about it, then you don't have to worry about you know, people like taking advantage of like any kind of weakness. You know, that's how narcissists are. You hang out, you meet a narcissist, and then you confide in them like stuff like oh, I'm not getting along with my brother right now, and then they use that against you. Like every single negative thing you say, they discard everything single positive thing you say and thing you teach them and help them and good things you say about yourself, and they only focus on the negative, and then they tell other people about that and to try to hurt your reputation. Then they rub it in. They start keeping score with you. Those are the most like least competitive, pathetic, like secretive people out there. You know, the most open, most competitive are all the most supporting. And so it's the same thing with society. You know, like an open society is better. That's why China, the closed society, they're all worried about saving face. Because they're all, and like Xi, the president, like makes up stories about how he was like an endurance athlete or something, and like, but they don't prove it. Like, and then you see him, and he's this big fat dude. So, yeah, so that's what's cool about David Goggins is like it's kind of the beginning of like motivate, but it's kind of something that I don't really get. Like, why do you need motivation? You know, it seems like once you get into the habit, then you do it just because you want, and then you do it for the physical fitness of it. But now people are getting on steroids, and then they get like, just so they can get physically strong and look good for a short period of time, and then the rest of their year is ruined, and then they die young. And when, you know, and because it's all about the ego. So, it's not really a matter of motivating into doing exercise isn't really a matter of like motivation. It's more a matter of creating spare time. So you have the time to do it. And then if you have the time, in order to have the time to do it, you need to streamline society. In order to streamline society, you need to get rid of all these extraneous expenses like school, thinking that you need people to instruct you to do something. Just give somebody a task so they can do it. Like I got kicked out of college because this idiot dude wanted me to like switch around titles from like chapters in like this 3-week lesson plan I did for the course, but he never had any opinions the whole time, never showed he knew anything, and he never even gave me a reason. And then he made up like I fixed a few things, and then he would just come up with another thing out of the blue, like that he wasn't mentioning before, like, oh, I just thought of, and I was just like, all right, enough, I'm not going to do any more of this dude jerking me around. And he's like, well, I had to give you a grade, but it wasn't very good. And I'm like, well, okay. And then it turns out that grade that wasn't very good was a D-, which is enough to fail. So I failed out of the entire education department to get my teaching license, even though I took a whole semester of extra teaching classes and 100-hour practicum hours, and they took away my student teaching I was going to do, all because of that one class, because he lied to me. And so we can't have a system where people can just jerk each other around and ruin people's lives just because they don't like you, you know? People have to, it has to be so transparent that nobody can get in your way but yourself. And so that, but we have the technology for that. You have a website, people have websites, YouTube, that's all you need. You know, bicycles getting cheaper, or you just do, you know, running just is free. So, and then, but you just have to record it, you know, and if somebody wants to get jealous of you and be like that, then don't hang out with them. You know, let those people kind of figure it out on their own. So, I don't know anything about David Goggins' like physical capabilities, but I'd love to know, you know. I mean, I don't think he's the well-rounded, you know, I don't know how much he benches. If I were to type David Goggins bench press 225, I wouldn't see him bench press no 225 because not even he is like transparent. So, you know, I just want to know what their numbers are and stuff, you know, and like maybe what your best ever was at or something. And yeah, and like biking, like let's see him ride a bike, you know, how many miles a day can he bike? Because if I see like some celebrity, oh, I rode my bike 200 miles a day, I'd be like, well, that motherfucker, like now it's time for me to get back in shape. So, you know, you can help each other that way. So, but yeah, I think the next step after David Goggins is like David Goggins 2.0 part brains. David Goggins with brains, like in motivation, like, yeah, man, you got to ride 100 miles and you got to do the book. You got to listen to the whole book in the whole 100 miles and then do that book review at the 100 miles. Oh, yeah, you got to take that test. You got to pass that test. Go, you can do it. Yeah, that kind of a thing. But in order to do it, you need the time. So, yeah, there should be like scholarships for kids, like where the government pays people to, where they don't have to work. You can go periods of time where you don't have to work and you're just working on self-improvement. So, yeah, that's what I think about David Goggins. It's just kind of a bummer that people have to, like he has to make his money doing like motivational speaking. Like I'd feel like an idiot going to, why would I go to a David Goggins motivational speech when I could use that same time to go on a run or something, you know, like I don't never have time for anything. Like today when my day was kind of ruined because I was up all night long with insomnia, probably because my body was still kind of like recovering from the new exercise I was doing, lifting and the riding, and well, I had a coffee yesterday at like 7 at night, but yeah, it's a matter of time. It's like how much time do you have and stuff, and it's kind of too bad that nobody wants to support me in any way because I think it's because they're just jealous. Like they noticed I had enough spare time to make my website, so instead of going, oh, let's all work together and try to help Kyle move society forward and, you know, have somebody with money donate to me and help me go. Instead, they're like, fuck this motherfucker. I don't want anything to do with him. Don't hire him because he obviously didn't have to have a job. He was going to build that site. It's like, why don't you just, you know, gain from it, like learn from it, read the books off my site or something. But, so anyways, that's what I'm up to now. I want to be like, I want to be David Goggins with brains, but I have to pass. So I have to pass the, my test, my England test first, and then my ancient history test. Take the ancient history test. I have to pass it, but I have to pass my image one test with 100%. So, and after that, I am going to ask for money from educational foundations and write something, write a blurb to explain it all. And make videos about it, promoting it like in different time periods. Like I'll have the long version, I'll have the like 30-minute version, 20, 10-minute, 5-minute, 1-minute, 30-second version, 10-minute, 10-second version of explaining the whole thing. And then, you know, like a song would be like the 5-minute version, maybe make a song. But yeah, I think it's kind of like the beginnings. That's cool. Like David Goggins is a freaking mainstream guy, but he's an endurance runner. Like that's unheard of. Like when I was growing up, cyclists and runners were like, that was like a back end sport. The only sports that were popular that had household names was like boxing, football, baseball, basketball, you know. But any other sport, it was like, it didn't matter, you know, nobody cared. So yeah, people are way more, and I think it's because of social media, because people are way more physically fit now. Young kids, way more muscular, especially the girls, way more muscular and physically fit than they ever were. And you can even see it with like memes, like you see like cartoons of people and they're all muscular. And so, yeah, that's cool. Everything's getting better that way. So I think he's playing a real important part. And also that he changed. Went from being a fat dude, and then you switch around, and then you get, and then, like, I saw this video of this big fat dude who lost a bunch of weight and became a muscle guy. So yeah, it's from the motivation, from the sharing, from the social media and stuff. So I think it's pretty cool. I'd love to see how he does, like, with my sport, like a mountain biking. Like, let's see him do like a 50 or 100 mile mountain bike ride or something. Right now, I can only do like 50-mile mountain bike rides because I can't eat food during my bike ride, because I have to do my bike ride all from the food that I ate before the ride, because my stomach is still wrecked. If I tried to eat something, I'd throw up. Like the last ride I did throw up. But the 2 rides I did before that, even though they were only 3 hours, 4 hours, I barfed my brains out because my stomach couldn't handle even the water. So I'm kind of getting back into it slowly. But yeah, maybe I could be the motivational guy as the old dude. You know, there's like a category for everything. Like there's a guy who did the 100 miles of Leadville with a hand bike, mountain bike. So that was cool, you know. Just create different categories, but I think the end of it is to have the category of the overall general category, the master of all trades category, where you mix physical and mental, like how Plato said, wed your mind training and physical training together like a horse and rider. And I don't know if he even gave a quote, like described how that would be, because like they didn't have the technology, but now we do have the technology to do that, and so we should jump all over it, and then we can shut down all those schools and streamline our economy and use the extra money for like social safety nets, and you know, making machines that plant trees. So anyway, that's my mom. Talk to you later.